everyone, and welcome to another SheProp panel. This time, just in time for Mother's Day, we are talking to some incredible cosplay artists that are also moms. I can't wait to get to know them and get to know a little bit about what it's like being a parent who also cosplays. But first, let's learn a little bit about SheProp. SheProp is a growing community that is focused upon representing female, non-binary, two-spirit, and transgender cosplay artists. You can check out this and more SheProp panels on YouTube, or if you love podcasts, we have panels and other content you can listen to on the ShePropTalk podcast. If you want to join us, or if you are an ally and you want to show your support, search SheProp and you'll find us on all social media channels. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Abby of Abby Cat Cosplay. I am not a parent myself, so I am really looking forward to talking to these really incredible people and to learn a little bit more about what their experience is. It's always a good idea for us to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes so that we can learn how to be better friends and peers, and that's what I'm looking forward to doing today.
Hi, my name is AJ. I am Confused Kitty Sewing on Instagram, and that's my webpage. I am the mother of two female larvae. One is 6 and one is 8, and I am really looking forward to hearing from other parents about how they cosplay with their kids, or don't.
Hi, I'm Dizzy Lizzie, a mom to a 10-year-old who's very feisty. My first cosplay is old enough that it can drink legally in the United States. I'm also a professional bridal seamstress, and I'm a waitress on the side. So I can't wait to see what happens today.
Hi, my name is Katrina. You can find me at Katrina Vera on Instagram. I am a mom of 2. I've been cosplaying on and off for about 10 years, but I didn't really start cosplaying consistently until about a year after the birth of my first son. I've used cosplay as a way to really find my identity again. I struggled with that a lot in motherhood, so I'm looking forward to connecting with other moms in this hobby.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mia of Mia May Cosplay. I've been cosplaying for about 8 years. I am the mother to a 15-month-old ginger snap, and who is an absolute cutie and loves getting into my fabric stash. She is also grown up during a quarantine, so it's been really interesting approaching cosplay and raising a baby while the world has been shut down, and thinking about, what is that going to look like as we're coming out of that and moving forward. So I'm excited to have a conversation with everyone today.
Well, thank you all so much for coming and joining this panel with me. I am very excited about it because I always like learning about people's experiences, especially when they're different than mine. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your experiences in cosplaying with children, or creating cosplays with children in the other room, or when you're growing a child, which is where we're going to start. So let's talk about cosplaying while pregnant, or what that is like. Mia, I know that was a very recent experience for you. So you got pregnant and you had a con coming up. What did you do?
Immediately panicked, because at the time, I got pregnant shortly after I had debuted my big 18th century Princess Leia. And the next con, I had a number of people that were like, hey, we want to do like some Rococo groups, and we want, you to be in, cosplay with us and do these costumes with us. And I was like, yeah, totally. And then the belly just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, I don't think I can fit in my 18th century stays anymore. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And, I had all these plans of like, oh, I'll do like a pregnant version of this, cosplay or something like that. But, what people I think don't really think about a lot is how much of a butt kicker that first trimester is, and how you just lose any and all motivation. And it's like, I just was sick and all I wanted to do was lay down. And by the time I had the motivation to start costuming again, everything was just getting bigger. It just didn't stop getting bigger. And I didn't even, I was like, if I sew this to my dress, like on my form now, in a month, it's going to be a completely different size and I'm not going to fit in it anymore. So I took the approach of pajama bottoms and went as comfortable as I could and dressed up as a depressed Thor.
Did anybody else look at cosplaying while pregnant and see what kind of costumes that they were going to do that they were excited about, or did that cause any disappointments because it changed plans that you were excited about?
At least for me, when I first found I was pregnant, like Mia said, the first trimester totally kicked my butt and I would not do anything. But I had all these grand plans, doing one of those sailor outfits, I can't remember her name right now. But, any kind of pregnant cosplay that is, pregnant in anime. I just had no motivation at that point. It's just your body's changing, your hormones are changing. It's hard to keep up because you got to keep changing your measurements. Besides the belly, the girls up top just kept changing for me too.
What can somebody do to help their cosplay friends in that situation? Is there a way we can provide support, or is it mostly just don't ask me about it? That's a sensitive topic.
For me, I really didn't want my friends to pressure me into making something, which happens a lot. The people's like, oh, you'll be fine. Just make it. You can make it like the pregnant version. And we can either help, the person make it, or let them decide whether or not they are physically feeling good to do it. That's my opinion.
I think too, just giving people an out and having them be okay with it. For Rose City, I had these big plans where I was going to do a pregnant Yennefer, and I had my Gerald that was going to go to the convention with me, and he was debuting a big costume. It was another cosplayer in the community. And when I had to send him that message and was just like, yeah, this just isn't happening. I'm just not getting my ducks in a row for this. He was just like, cool, good. Like, sorry, that's fine. This doesn't change my plans at all. And it was really nice to be able to just bail and have someone be like totally understanding, whereas other people were a bit more like, oh, are you sure? Do you want me to help you? And it's like, no, I just need you to be okay with me not doing this.
I got pregnant in January of last year, and I had a couple of pregnancy cosplay plans. And as we know, 2020 went a little differently than we thought it was going to. I had been really excited to recreate the Jessica Drew Spider-Woman cover, the one where she's pregnant. And I thought the timing was perfect because there was a convention in the summer where I would be just pregnant enough to not be uncomfortable, but still look, cute and pregnant. And then when the time came, that convention was canceled. So I ended up just taking some photos on a rooftop. Fellow ShePropper Cheyenne Jazzwise actually made it for me and took the photos. But I realized something about myself. It would have been a nightmare for me wearing that costume to a convention because I should have known this. I don't like being touched when I'm pregnant. So I thought about it. Going to a convention in that costume would have actually been my nightmare because I feel like I would have been opening doors to people coming up to me and thinking they could touch me. So that is something anyone should ask themselves if they're going to take on a pregnant cosplay. Are you going to be okay with people thinking that they can go up to you and touch you? Because that's hard enough in a normal cosplay. When you're pregnant, people's hands just turn into magnets for some reason. So just ask yourself that if you're ever going to do a pregnancy cosplay.
Is there anything that, Mia.
I was just going to throw onto that. I thought that I had worked around that by going dressed as Thor. I was like, oh yeah, no, this is great because it doesn't look like, a pregnant belly or anything like that. Mm-hmm. The problem is that enough people know me where when they figured out it was me dressed as Thor and thought they didn't realize that I was pregnant at the time, mm-hmm. a number of people thought I had made a synthetic silicone stomach.
Oh, goodness.
And I had people come up and poke it and were like, wow, it's so realistic. And I was like, my baby kicks back. You do not touch my belly.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Now, we've talked a little bit about pregnant cosplaying, but there's also like after you're pregnant and now you're cosplaying with a baby and maybe your clothes don't fit, or what sort of experience was it when you were cosplaying with a newborn person in tow? Did anybody go there or try that?
I definitely took my kid, but we did not cosplay and we only went for a day, and it was to Otakon because I'm near Otakon. And yeah, that was like done. She had a couple hours. She's like, we're done. And I'm like, all right, let's get out of here. So you got to be able to move with them, what they want to do. It's not about what you want to do.
Now, Katrina, I know you do not involve your kids in your cosplay at all.
I'm just waiting to see when they're interested in it. I am definitely the sort of person who can barely take care of myself at a convention. So I don't feel like I'm up to the challenge of taking care of kids at a convention just yet. Mine are 4 and 7 months old. So I'm sure one of these days they will start to get a little more interested. I know my oldest really likes Halloween. So one of these days he'll definitely get involved, but I just decided to wait until he showed interest.
Okay. And AJ, we haven't heard from you yet. So what is your take on incorporating your children in your cosplay experience, especially when they're real young?
We did a lot of cosplay when we were super young, but we didn't go to conventions. You do remember they don't get fully inoculated till 12 months. And we had like measles scares about the time when my kids were really young. And so we didn't want to take them out in crowds. So that's something to keep in mind when they're super young. But we did cosplay, and we just like ran around the complex and took photos with them, or, just did them photos at home. But they can't object when they're that small. It's the great part. You just have to put them in a costume and they look cute no matter what you put them in.
Now, I know that it's not just about the actual act of putting on your costume and wearing it in public. It's also the act of creating your costumes for a lot of you. When children are involved, that definitely, I can imagine, changes things like prioritize lists, amount of time you have, a number of other things. So AJ, could you talk a little bit about what goes into how you decide where to put your time and energy and money?
Yeah, the big one, but the first kid was a lot harder, was your output goes way down, and you have to make peace with that, and it's rough. Like you go from making 8, 9 costumes and you're super productive, maybe more, to man, it's a good year if I finish one. So the adjustment is a little rough, but once you make the mental adjustment that, okay, we're not going to make as many costumes, then as long as you put a little bit of time aside here and there, every day put a little bit of time aside, it works out. You can make stuff. It's just you can't sit down and do it for long periods, because you've got a small human being who depends on you now.
And Katrina, I know the cosplay part is a big part of the time you set aside for yourself. So how does that work with how you manage your time and energy?
I still definitely do a lot of things after bedtime, and I've had to learn that those little hours you set aside add up. You may not have an 8-hour stretch like you were saying to work on something, but if you have 8 days and you have an hour at each of those days, just put them all together. You just have to get used to being able to start and stop things pretty quickly. So I've tried to make sure whenever I have to leave off with something, that it's in a place where when I pick it back up, I can kind of figure out what I was doing the last time I was sitting down.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add in that topic range, or anything they want to contribute?
I think that just as was already said, that hour at a time just becomes key. In setting realistic expectations for yourself of, you can't sit down in an evening and, sew a corset in one night anymore. For me, I can't do the whole, I'm just going to sew all night and just, be tired tomorrow kind of thing, because, you have to be able to provide for someone else and be able to give them their attention. Because I think as moms, having that time to ourselves where we're I don't have to care for someone else for a minute and no one wants something from me, it can end up being a really good mental reset. And then plus we get to make pretty things at the same time.
I mean, I don't even have children, and there are times when I have to say, no one ask me anything right now at all. I actually had one of those days yesterday where I said, I will not respond to messages, send. And we always have to have it. I can't imagine what it's like when there's children involved. But one thing that we did want to talk, we're going away from cons a little bit, but AJ, you brought up something that was really interesting that I don't know many of us had to think about until 10 years ago, which is social media and pictures of your children on social media. I have cats. I put my cats all over social media. It's a free-for-all. Nobody cares, but you very much care about your children and pictures being shared. Can you tell a little bit about what that's like and why that's an important issue to think about?
The whole internet is not always a safe place. I feel like parents should kind of have a plan going into the con, because like if your kid is really cute, and they're going to be cute because they're in costume, people are going to want photos. Like videographers come up, like publications have come up to and ask for photos of my kids. And the first time it happened, I was just like, I don't even know what to say to that. Like, what do I say? But thankfully, because, you know, we have to think about it now, my husband and I have decided the way we're going is that we don't post their legal names online. That's how we get around it. Like anyone who knows me knows I refer to them as the larva. Like no one actually knows their names. And I will let people take photos of them, and they've been published in like newspapers and online, but I won't give them their legal names because I don't want their names out there. But that's how we deal with it. You know, everyone's going to have different solutions for what works for them.
And Lizzie, your child competes, so I imagine that creates an entirely different level of people taking their pictures and their names being out there. So is that something that you think about when she's involved in the competition and masquerade culture?
Absolutely. That's like the number one. Her name does not go out there. If anything, it'll be my name and then the little one, or, you know, Lizzie too. And that way, you know, it's off the grid. I actually hold her con badge, so it's never on her because it always has her name on it. And so that way, if anybody does take a picture that I don't know of, they can't see her name.
That's something I wouldn't have even thought of, the con badge.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have an approach that they want to share with us, or a concern that they want to share with us that some people may not think of if they're not trying to go to a con with a child?
I think a lot of people don't necessarily think of kids being able to consent to what ends up online too. Like for us, our approach right now with, you know, my husband and I have talked about it a little bit, and well, we're not taking her to conventions until she shows an interest in conventions. The other thing for us is, you know, pictures of her in general. We don't post pictures of her in any public facing platform. If I post a picture of her on my Instagram, her face is covered. And, you know, I think a lot of that is because the internet is going to change as our kids grow up, and it's going to end up becoming something different. And, you know, when you have these kids where their whole life has been posted or not posted, they're going to get to an age where they have opinions about that. I have opinions about pictures that my mom took when I was like 12, and those are nowhere near the internet. And so for me, I really want her to be able to have some say in what that public facing image is of herself. And, you know, when she gets to that age where someone can ask her, like, do you want your picture taken? I will make sure to, like, you know, if she doesn't want her picture taken, her picture's not taken, even if we're at a convention. But I think that a lot of people, back to my original statement, just don't think about it. So many people end up like asking parents, like, oh, can I take a picture of your kid? And it's like, yeah, here's my kid. And, you know, yes, you should ask a parent's permission, but also if that kid doesn't want their picture taken, that should play into that decision also.
Yeah, I always ask my daughter when someone asks, like, do you want your picture taken? And she'll give me yes or no. And then whatever that kid says, that's it. And if they do get a picture, I ask for a card and to look at the picture, just to make sure there's no strange things going on. So before it's posted.
That's good to know. Now, we've talked a little bit about your creative process while making cosplays for yourself. In all these different situations, but the other part about creating cosplays is actually wearing them and actually going to a con wearing them. And I know a couple of you haven't experienced children at a con or a con with your kids yet, but for the ones who have, if you're thinking about taking your kids to a con and you're putting them in a costume, what sort of decisions or thoughts do you have when deciding what characters to wear, where to stay, how long to be there, those types of things that a person should keep in mind before cosplaying with their child?
For me, it's definitely, we stick to a schedule. Even like at home, it's like, this is going to be the lunchtime, this is dinner, this is snack time. And I make sure to hear that schedule, even at a convention, make sure she has the downtime she needs. If she's wearing a costume, she chooses the costume. And if she doesn't want to even wear it, that's fine. You know, it's I've seen some people get angry at their kids for not wearing it for even like 10 minutes. It's like, the kid doesn't want to wear it, just let them not wear it. because it's all about their fun, at this point.
We usually only do local cons so that we can come and go as we please.
Mhm.
We just drive in, and we generally only stay a couple hours. I mean, thankfully, most kids under 12 are free, so you're not spending a lot of money there. So we'll go for a couple hours. They usually pick their costumes. I mean, they're like such cosplayer kids. Like, we did one con where they're like, we're gonna bring both costume sets so we can change in the middle. But yeah, and then try to just in general, when you're making costumes for kids, they need to be comfortable, because once the kid gets uncomfortable, it's all over. They get crabby, they don't want to be there. So comfort is a big thing, and keeping them fed and hydrated. I mean, it's true for cosplayers in general. So
Yeah, I don't have fun when I'm uncomfortable, and I'm an adult, and I can say out loud, these shoes hurt my feet, or I need a snack. So I definitely get that with kids, especially when they can't communicate their needs as well. Regarding making the costume for a child, what sort of adaptations do you make or changes do you make to the design that people should keep in mind?
easy and easy out. Because there's something I thought of for convention. This is along the lines of easy and easy out. When they get excited, they forget to tell you they need to go to the bathroom. So they need to be able to get in and out really quickly, because there are going to be a lot of emergencies at the last minute. And then one thing we do is we set a timer. We do this at Disneyland too. Like every 2 hours, timer goes off, we all stop, we go find a bathroom. Because like convention halls don't always have convenient bathrooms. So being proactive about that will save you a lot of grief later. Ask me how I know. Okay.
I need to do that for myself at a con as an adult woman. Like, thank you for that. I needed that.
That is a good idea.
Yeah,
Now, Katrina, you brought up something when we were planning this panel that is unrelated to the con experience. It's cosplaying when you're not at a con. And I know you do a lot of volunteering, and you volunteered before and after you had kids, and that impacted your ability to volunteer. Is that correct? Or am I understanding correctly?
No. I started volunteering after I had my child. I think there was someone else who said they had that experience though. So I am the director of human resources for Critical Care Comics. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we visit cancer centers, children's hospitals all around the Vegas Valley. And we've actually moved our operations to Zoom mostly this past year. So often I am sitting in a Zoom window in costume, and we have an iPad that goes around to the kids that are in the hospitals right now. It definitely can be hard sometimes. I talk to my volunteers about this a lot, even volunteers who don't have children. I think sometimes it's very important to make sure you have really good boundaries when you're doing volunteer work. I heavily lean on my character a lot, and will say, I'm leaving myself at the door when I walk into this facility, and I will check in with myself when I exit, because you'll have experiences. You'll meet a child that has the same name as your child, maybe the same age, just a child going through something painful that reminds you of your own child. I have stood in the hospital room that my son was in after a surgery, and that was a very surreal experience for me. But the work we do means so much to me, and I just couldn't imagine giving it up. I definitely do a lot more administrative stuff these days, just because human resources is a lot of work. But I still try to make sure I do visits at least 2 or 3 times a year, just so I can stay on my character and keep. It's kind of, if you fall out of practice, it can be really hard to get back into, for sure.
So does anybody else have anything that they want to add about their experience is cosplaying as a mom, or cosplaying with their children, or even just getting their kids into cosplay?
I have a question for the group, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Not
let's open it up for questions for anybody.
Well, being, I think, the newest mom in the group, I'm curious how motherhood ended up changing your guys' approach to cosplay. And I asked this because someone asked me recently, and I didn't have a response to them. A lot of the cosplays that I have done, not all of them, but a number of them were pinup cosplays. And I had this gentleman ask me if I was going to no longer approach doing pinup cosplays now that I'm a mom. And for me, I was like, no, that's stupid. Like, I'm not changing any of my approach to cosplay. But it did get me thinking of, does being a mother and having, entering a new chapter in your life, has it changed the approach of what characters you're interested in doing, or the draw that you have for certain costumes, and what makes you want to make them?
That's a really good question. But I love your answer to not wanting to change what you're doing. I personally just find cosplay so empowering. And like I said, it's something that really helped me with my identity as a new mom, because there was just this point the first year of my son's life where I just felt like I didn't know myself anymore. I was like, I feel like I'm just half asleep walking through life like a zombie, and getting back into cosplay again just kind of gave me something to treat myself to me time, and made me feel like I deserved that me time again. So it's definitely become really important to me. But I've done boudoir shoots. I've done all sorts of fun stuff. I think it's important to do the things that make you feel empowered. I definitely do the characters that mean the most to me, though, because I don't have time for just whatever. I mean, it's fun to do whatever trend is going on, but at the end of the day, it's got to be the characters that make me feel really powerful, because sometimes I really need to borrow that strength.
I find I'm more leaning towards more difficult things to do, because you can't just spit them out as easy. Mm-hmm. So if I want to, like you said, your time is, it's precious to you. So you want to concentrate on something that is more that you want to do, more meaningful, more, I don't know. For me, it's like more beating, more this, more that, skills I know I can do, but I haven't done like in prior classes. I'm just fitting up conventions.
Does anybody else have anything to add? And by anybody, I mean AJ, you're the only person who hasn't added anything left.
I mean, what everyone has said, I haven't changed what I choose to cosplay, but I am definitely more selective, because I don't have the time to do my monster list. I'm going to die with a wish list that's like never going to be done. So, I have to really prioritize the ones that I want to make, because I'm not going to get to them all.
I think Mia brought up a really great opportunity, though, because we are here in a group of moms with different perspectives in some ways, with different aged children in some ways. So if there are questions that you've had that you wanted to know how other people handled, now could be a really good time to address them. So did anybody want to bring something like that up?
I mean, everyone's kids, I think, slightly younger than mine, but I've heard a lot of people say that their kids reach a point where they don't want to do it anymore. And I'm like, I'm just wondering what the experience was like with that, because that makes me sad. My kids love it right now, but I imagine they won't want to.
My daughter's, she, like I said, she's 10 now, and she's so far from wanting to sew, so far from wanting to do any sort of craft. And that's like what my main thing is. And my daughter's all about Minecraft for the past several years. And that's very important to her. And so she doesn't mind wearing the costume. She still picks, but she will not be involved at all at this stage. For all I know, years down the road, she may take interest in actually crafting. So I can't wait for that. If it happens.
At this point, it's pretty much just a here, put this on kind of approach for you with her.
Yeah, whatever she picks, I make it. And, she puts it on. She used to help, like, glue things on, but that's now not a thing.
Now, I do a lot of group cosplays, not with children. I'm going to be honest about that. But I do approach group cosplays where you look at, like, the weakest member. Sounds wrong. That's not what I mean. I mean the person who's most likely to bail or has the lowest commitment level. It's usually me. I'm usually the person that's like, yeah, I'm going to need to have some alone time now. So when I think of group cosplay, I would imagine that the wild card would be the child. So you would want to put them in the costume that's not the key element costume. Like, if it's Wizard of Oz, you don't put the kid in Dorothy, because if Dorothy wanders away, then you're just a random scarecrow standing there. But it sounds like you let the kid dictate the character. Do they usually pick that key element character? Is that what you found?
I mean, it's just like Halloween. They're going to wear what they want to wear. And I can't just make some random costume and she'll be like, okay, I'll put this on. It's not about that life with her.
My kids suffer from the same disease as me, where they won't pick the main character. Like we did Wreck-It Ralph, and I tried so hard to get one of them to be Vanellope because then I could just buy the costume, right? Oh no, they wanted to be the obscure Sugar Rush Racers that you cannot buy the costume for. So I had like 2 extra costumes to make. I did really try. I was like, but at the end of the day, you have to let them pick, because if they're not invested, they're not going to enjoy it. They're not going to want to do it. Don't force the kid.
Well, and speaking of investment, we're talking about kids who are growing. So how much use do you get out of the cosplays?
Depends on how fast you grow in that year. Yeah.
I've been using the same Spider-Man suit for my son for like 2.5 years. I got it really big because I was like, the pants will be a little loose. I can have him in sneakers. He won't slip. It still fits. I think I'll get another year out of it. So it ended up being a pretty good investment. For Halloween and just some days he wants to be Spider-Man. I mean, I can relate. I get it.
Yeah.
For my daughter's first Halloween, everyone was asking me if I was going to like make all of these family costumes, because we were in quarantine at the time, so there wasn't things going on, and it was like the pressure of, oh, what giant costume are you going to make? And I was like, she's like 9 months old. I bought a burlap sack and cut holes in it and drew a money sign on it, and she was a bag of money.
That's perfect. I think those are people who don't realize how many fluids come out of these creatures around that age.
Yeah, I felt like I was traumatizing her enough by trying to shove her chunky little legs into a bag. I couldn't imagine trying to get her into anything else. I mean, but it's like she can't even keep a bow on her head. Like there's not going to be a cute little thing going on. It's what can I tie on or Velcro, and that's how it'll stay.
What do you wish your child-free friends in the cosplay community knew? Or what do you wish they could understand about your experience as a CosMom?
Know that we'll be back. We may be gone for like a year or two, trying to raise this child and trying to get some sleep. But we'll be back. Check in on us. Say hi, how you doing? See if we need anything. Because you'll notice there's a lot of people that will not contact you anymore. They think you don't have the time. We just want someone to say hi, that you're thinking of us.
I have found a strange thing when I'm at conventions every once in a while. None of my friends do this to me, but there'll be an acquaintance or someone who just knows I have a child will come up and ask who is watching my child. It's really hard for me not to answer sarcastically and say, oh, I left out a doggy food bowl, they'll be fine. So just don't ask who's watching. You wouldn't ask a guy who was on a trip who's watching their kids. So please don't ask a mom at a convention who's watching their kids.
I don't have a problem with my non-parent friends. I have a bit of a problem with, and they aren't friends, but people in the community sometimes that are also fellow parents. And sometimes, for instance, my daughter was born in January, so I posted an announcement that I would not be attending Emerald City last year, because I was going to have a fresh baby, and I had already made that choice, and I wasn't going to do that. And instead of people being like, "Oh, that's okay, we'll see you next year," or something like that, I was inundated with messages of people telling me that I could take my 2-month-old to the convention and I could do it this way. And they did this with their baby, and they, their baby just slept the whole time that they went to the convention, and it was so easy, and like just telling me all these things. And it's one of those things where it's like, and I know that as parents, like, I think sometimes we want to help other people. And I know that sometimes I've totally been guilty of this too, but it's one of those things where it's like, if someone says that they can't do something because of their kid, or they're doing something a certain way because of their kid, cool, let them do that. Like, no, if they didn't ask for your advice, they don't want your advice. It doesn't matter if you have kids or if you don't have kids, that people are making their choices for what works for their family. And, it doesn't make it easier if you offer your opinion on that.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today and telling us a little bit more about your experiences as moms who cosplay and who create and who give their time to others in this community. It's really great to hear that. So please just go around and tell us one more time where we can find you on social media and any final thoughts you may have.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Mia May Cosplay. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for, letting me be a part of this conversation as a new mom and welcoming me to the club. And it was really great to be able to do this.
Well, it was really nice talking to you guys. You can find me at Katrina Vera on Instagram. It's really great to see how other people handle their children in cosplay and at conventions, because that day may come for me sooner than I know it.
Well, thanks for inviting me to the panel. It was really nice to meet you ladies. I don't really get to talk that many CosMoms, so it's really a fun opportunity for me. So I'm Dizzy Lizzy. You can find me on Instagram with Dizzy Lizzy Cosp, C-O-S-P, or you can find me on Facebook, Dizzy Lizzy Costuming.
And I'm AJ. I'm Confused Kitty Sewing on Instagram. And thanks for having me.
Well, and you can find all of us in the SheProp community. So don't forget to come and join the SheProp community. We are welcoming to all women, trans, non-binary, and two-spirit cosplayers, makers, and artists. It's a really welcoming environment, and we would love to have you come and join us, ask us questions, let us share your experiences with you. And I hope you have a really great time with this panel. Happy Mother's Day.